In 1804, they were a group of hounded scholars fleeing for their lives. By 1830, they were the masters of the largest empire in Africa, covering over 1,000,000 square kilometers. They didn't just win a war, they dismantled the ancient world. But how did a group of nomads and teachers destroy kingdoms that had stood for 1,000 years? Most people think it was just religious zeal. They're wrong. Today, we're relooking at the 6 brutal studies from biological timing to psychological subversion that's made the Sokoto war machine unstoppable. And wait until you see how they hacked the impenetrable southern jungles. These tactics were so effective, they rewrote the map of an entire continent. This story you think you know is only the beginning. The first strategy was the rivet. Sokoto didn't just invade, they anchored. They built fortified towns, these rebuts, right on their enemy's doorstep. Imagine a network of walled fortresses appearing systematically along the borders of powerful states like the Oyer Empire. But these weren't just forts, they were settler colonies, populated by veteran warriors and their families. They were self-sufficient, permanent bases of operation deep within enemy territory. Each one was a dagger pointed at the hearts of their rivals, a launch pad for future attacks that could be triggered at any moment. It was a slow, creeping invasion that was nearly impossible to counter. But while the soldiers built walls, the scholars were winning the war of the mind. This was strategy 2. The 5th column. The leaders of the Sokoto movement were part of a vast intellectual network that spanned across West Africa. They sent letters and dispatched emissaries to the oppressed peasants and marginalized Muslim communities within neighboring kingdoms. The message was powerful and simple. Join us and we will offer you justice under Sharia law and, crucially, lower taxes. They didn't have to break down the city walls if the people inside were already convinced to open the gates for them. It was a brilliant campaign of psychological subversion, turning their enemy's greatest weakness, internal discontent, into Sokoto's greatest strength. When diplomacy and subversion failed, they sent Intetings of the 19th century, Sahel, the heavy cavalry. This was strategy 3. Imagine 1,000-pound war horse, a powerful charger, but draped head-to-foot in thick quilted cotton armor known as the feet. This armor, layered and dense, could stop a poisoned arrow mid-flight. Beneath the cotton, the rider himself might wear chain. This combination made them nearly impervious to the light skirmishers and archers that defined the regional warfare. Seeing 1,000 of these armored giants charging across the plains, kicking up a storm of dust, would have been terrifying. It was a show of force designed to shatter any morale before the first clash of steel. But these powerful horses had a weakness, a tiny, buzzing weakness that should have stopped the Sokoto Empire dead in its tracks as it expanded south. The tsetse fly, these insects, carriers of a deadly disease for livestock, infested the southern forests and wetlands. How did Sokoto's cavalry, the core of their military power, overcome an enemy they couldn't even see? How did they solve the insect problem? We're getting to that in just 60 seconds. The solution was a stroke of genius that combined environmental knowledge with military precision. The answer was strategy 4, the seasonal campaign. The leaders of Sokoto understood the ecology of their environment better than their enemies. They knew the tsetse fly population peaked during the wet, rainy season. So they developed a form of biological warfare in reverse. They simply waited. Their entire military calendar was built around the climate. They would only launch their major southern campaigns during the dry season when the fly population was at its weakest and the risk to their precious cavalry was minimized. It was a patient, calculated strategy that allowed them to project power into regions that should have been inaccessible. Once they reached the massive mud brick walls of the great Hausa city-states, they rarely attempted a direct assault. That led to strategy 5. Economic strangling. Instead of trying to climb the walls, the Sokoto cavalry would encircle a city and simply burn the surrounding farms and granaries right before their harvest. They turned the dry season into a starvation clock. With no food coming in and their stockpiles dwindling, the defenders were faced with a grim choice: surrender or starve. The impenetrable walls became a prison. The Sokoto army turned the enemy's greatest defense into the very instrument of their defeat, all without losing a single soldier in a costly siege. The final frontier was the dense, humid jungle of the south, where the heavy cavalry was supposedly useless. The thick undergrowth made charges impossible, and the tsetse fly was a constant threat. So they adapted. This was strategy 6, the forest hybrid. They traded their massive northern chargers for smaller, hardier Guinean ponies that were more resistant to disease and better suited to the terrain. More importantly, they used proxy alliances in strategic locations like Ilerin, which became a vital bridgehead into the south. They supported local infantry rebellions. They led their allies to the messy work of clearing the bush and fighting in the forests, saving their elite lighter cavalry for the perfect moment to strike a decisive blow in the open. By 1837, the map of West Africa had been rewritten forever. The old empires of Oyo and the Hausa states were either shattered or absorbed. The Sokoto caliphate, born from a small group of scholars, had become a continental superpower. Their success proved that with the right combination of faith, brilliant strategy, and a ruthless understanding of both psychology and the natural environment, no wall is too high and no forest is too thick. They didn't just conquer. They created a new world. If you want to see how this incredible empire eventually faced its own reckoning against the British and their Maxim guns, check out our next video right here. Subscribe to join the History Militia and never
please subscribe
miss
and comment.
a deep
I would like to hear your
dive.
comments on Sokoto
Thanks
Empire.
for
and
watching.
please share this great story from Africa.